So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Star Wars. So let's start the series. Known as Blood Prison, Hozuki Castle, he has been sitting in this cell for a year because he was falsely accused of trying to kill the fourth Raikage, but when he denied doing so, no one took him seriously as usual. After saving them from pain and even persuading him to bring back to life the ones he had killed, he was cast into Hozuki Castle in Kusagakure for a crime he had not committed. Naruto stood in front of Mui, the warden, who had sealed his chakra with his heavenly prison seal. Behind him was an odd box, and Mui strapped him to a table in the room before channeling his chakra into the box. As the box began to open, Mui watched and said, "Box of ultimate bliss, give me back my son." Nothing happened, just a dark fog emerged, and then the box closed. Furious that nothing had happened, Mui ordered that Naruto be placed in a cell for later, but he was unaware that something very old had emerged from the box. The Naruto cell. Naruto lay in his cell, barely conscious and in excruciating pain, till his reality turned black and he slipped into his own fantasy world. The mindscape of Naruto. In Naruto's mindscape, we see a man in full armor searching through a sewer-like mind for something. He felt a tremendous force of anger and hatred while searching, and he was both angry and confused at the same time because he saw how much potential this child had been wasted with incompetent teachers. The only one who seemed competent was an old toad who taught him something called senjutsu, which seems to use the force to enhance someone's close combat fighting abilities to almost superhuman level, as well as how they manipulated the elements. It was fascinating to see how this child was so naive. It was as though something would keep him innocent and forgiving on purpose, even though the Jedi were so forgiving that some of the enemies he had faced would be destroyed right away. "Who are you, mortal? You're not the foolish brat I call prison. Why are you here?" the armored figure asked as it arrived at the cage of the Kyubi no Kitsune, as this monster is known. Suddenly, two blood-red eyes opened. The in-armor-clad man continued, "I am Darth Maul, Lord of the Sith, and my reason for being here is you and your host broke my prison with what you call chakra, and after searching through his memories and experiences I decided to make him my apprentice." "Good luck with that, child is naive beyond anything," said the fox. "Yes, I know, but something isn't right. I feel like there's another presence here that is influencing him. It seems like it's about your age." Mar then used his dark powers to focus and pull something out, and it was a man with spiky brown hair, stern facial features, and a headband. "Do you know this person, Kyubi?" Mar asked. The fox began to growl, "Azura, what the hell are you doing here? You should be dead, so why are you here? Answer me." Azura responded, "Hello Kurama, you remember father's prophecy about eternal peace or destruction that will be brought by one his descendants. Naruto is the one, so after witnessing his life I thought it was better help him stay in the light so peace could finally come and so he doesn't got insane. I influenced him to stay forgiving and naive and not lash out so he could fulfill his destiny to bring peace." Kurama said, "You fucking idiot, so you're the reason my container is an idiot and naive beyond anything, and because of your meddling he got us both nearly killed multiple times. Be grateful I cannot get out or I would eat you." Azura was about to respond when the other person there struck him with a strong lightning bolt, but it didn't feel like lightning chakra. Instead, it felt dark and caused so much pain that he was unable to move at all. "Stop, if you kill me now and Naruto will stray from his path, peace will never be attained that way," he yelled, turning to face the man. Mar chuckled and said, "Peace is a lie, there is only passion, through passion, I gain strength, through strength, I gain power, through power, I gain victory, through victory, my chains are broken, the force shall free me." Mar increased the intensity of his onslaught after saying his final phrase until Azura's presence was permanently gone from his thoughts and he was no longer able to sense it. Then he turned to face his new trainee, who was grinning behind his helmet. Training a new apprentice would be enjoyable. Alongside Naruto. When Naruto woke up, he felt as though something had disappeared from his head and he began to doubt his life. He felt that every challenge and choice he had made and that his life was not his was because he had always helped others, only to be largely forgotten about and discarded like a tool, such as when he defeated Pain, saved the village, and learned Sage Mode without even becoming a Chunin. However, he saved his pals, correct? Were they even his friends? No, not really. No one knows him at all, and thinking back to Hinata, she loved the idea of him, not himself, and every time he needs their support they let him deal with it alone. As he was finishing his thoughts, he felt a presence that wasn't the fox. He looked in its direction and noticed a man wearing dark armor. "Who are you?" he inquired. "Do you accept and become free or not and stay a slave to others? Your choice." Mar inquired, but the figure used his power to reveal him who he was and what he wanted instead of responding. Naruto reflected about his life once more, recalling all of the battles, adventures, and betrayals. He had had enough and was determined to achieve his own independence. He nodded and looked back at Mar. Mar said, "Very well, stand up. Your new way now begins. Normally you would be too old to teach the ways of the Sith, but being in your mind means we can control time, alter it to the point where 1 year outside would be 12 in here." In order to train like any youngling, Mar utilized his power to make Naruto 6 again in his thoughts. From there, he started by using the 7 lightsaber forms to force abilities like push and lightning. But there was one issue that remained: how to make a weapon for his student. This world was too primitive to build a lightsaber. After thinking for a while, there was only one choice: he needed to craft a force weapon from metal and imbue it with the force. That will be difficult because Mar had no knowledge how to make such a weapon, but right now he must train his apprentice to the best of his ability, so the Sith can rise again. In his mind, a year had gone by since Naruto began training under Dark Mar, which equated to 12 years. He had changed significantly in terms of his mental makeup, becoming wiser, smarter, and colder, but most significantly, his Sage Mode had developed and given him a new fighting style that not even his master was aware of. However, there was still one lesson to be learned, and Naruto was aware that he would have to defeat his master in single battle tonight in order to become a Dark Lord of the Sith. This would undoubtedly be a difficult task. The Mindscape of Naruto. The Black Council Room, where Mar and the other Dark Lords had ruled the Sith in the former Sith Empire, would serve as their battlefield, and his master was already waiting. When Mar saw his student, he waited until he was standing across from him. They both stared at one another, anticipating what would happen next, and only one would then be able to claim the title of master. Mar stated, "The time has come, my apprentice. For 12 years I guided and trained you in the ways of the dark side till it has become your ally, and now your final test begins. Show me that you're worthy of the title Dark Lord of the Sith." The combat that would determine Naruto's fate had began when he lit his blades and Naruto activated his blade as well. Mar began by charging at Naruto and launching a barrage of quick strikes. Naruto quickly went on the defense and primarily used his single blade until they entered a blade lock, and Mar attempted a cross-cut in which they both attempted to throw each other off balance. This went on for a few while before Naruto began assembling the force around him in preparation for an assault known as force repulsion. Mar was aware of what his apprentice desired, but before he could respond, Naruto launched the attack and bounced him back. When Mar stopped Naruto's charge with a powerful force lightning, Naruto lifted his blade to absorb the attack and propel it back at Mar, who deflected it toward a wall with one of his sabers. They then resumed their close fight, exchanging thrusts, blows, and attacks as they looked for weaknesses in each other's defenses to land a last blow. They were in another blade lock, and this time Mar was prepared. He deactivated one of his sabers, channeled lighting against Naruto, and blasted him off his feet against a wall. Disappointed, he then tore Naruto's blade from his hand and began to walk to his apprentice to kill him, but Naruto burst out laughing. "Why are you laughing?" Mar yelled at Naruto. "I have one trick left," Naruto said, "something I developed in private to use for this one moment." He began directing chakra and the dark side of his body, and gradually both abilities fused together. His eyes glowed purple, and he had two flat, 50 cm long force swords on the back of his hands that were actually made of the force. The intensity of power both energies formed blew him back just as Mar wanted to charge his student to stop whatever he was doing. He now stared in amazement and bewilderment at what he was seeing and prepared for round 2. Now that Naruto had both of his talents united and had entered Sage mode, the true battle had started as he charged at his master in combat position. In order to generate more strength for his blow, Mar attempted to attack Naruto frontally by channeling the dark side into his body. However, as soon as he deflected a blow from Naruto's left arm, he was thrown back to the other half of the arena. He corrected himself in midair before being blasted backwards against a wall. He knew now there were only two things he could do: stalling Naruto till his Sage mode run out, or using the power now in his feet to lash forward like a spring hoping to catch him off guard, Mar thought to himself as he landed with his feet pushed close to breaking point on the wall. Although the first option was safer, Mar was growing weary, and the longer the struggle lasted, the more likely it was that he would lose, so he decided to take a chance and he started forward, followed by Naruto. There was a brief altercation, and everything seemed to stop until Mar collapsed on the ground, at which point Naruto entered his Sage form and became exhausted. After he acquired the right to refer to himself as a Dark Lord of the Sith, Naruto approached gently to his master to hear his final words. When it came time to deliver his charge, Mar lied there in agony after being sliced all the way through his mid-body. If he hadn't been a Force ghost, he would have died right away. His new name was Naruto Uzumaki, and he was dead. A true warrior had taken his place, and he grinned under his helmet, knowing that the Sith were in capable hands. Before fading into the Force, Naruto stood next to his fallen master and knelt down to hear his final words. Mar began to speak. "I am thankful that I had the privilege of being your master. You picked things up quickly and with discipline, training every day until you reached your limits and beyond. Like a genuine king of old, but now is your day to ascend and leave a legacy worthy of someone of your rank. One final piece of advice is to follow your own heart and beliefs and never let your passion drive you, as many of us do. Now, rise Darth Nova, be reborn, and go to a place where there are whirlpools and a secret cove that not even the locals knew existed. It's a star ship, and it will be broken. This will be your final task before the galaxy awaits you. You must fix it." Following the last words spoken by Mar, the now named Darth Nova gazed at the spot where his master had been just a second before, shedding tears for what may have been the final time in his life that Mar had transcended his role as his master and became his father. He reared him without training him, and he would honor his father by giving him a name full of honor. Nova, which means new in ancient human language, implied that a new Dark Order would emerge via his hands, and he now had to flee to start his trip. After fighting his now dead master in his cell, Naruto woke up as morning approached and his daily routine from the previous year was repeating itself one last time before his chains were broken tonight. With the dark side's assistance, he corrupted the heavenly prison jutsu to the point where it would fall apart that night. As night fell quickly, Naruto waited in silence for his chains to shatter before his jutsu failed and he took action, stealthily breaking the lock with his force and leaving his cell. He made his way through the dungeon without any issues and soon arrived at the main courtyard of Hozuki Castle, a shinobi jail. It was shoddily guarded, with a few guards present, but nothing that he couldn't dodge, so he leaped over the wall and began running through the night. He ran non-stop until dawn arrived, at which point he stopped and took a break. Now that he had enough room, he called forth a toad and requested to be reverse summoned to the toad realm. A little green toad appeared, and Naruto informed it that he needed to reverse summon and speak with the toad elder. A moment later, he was called forth. Mount Mayoboku, Fukasaku and Shima, two toad elders, waited for Naruto to explain what had transpired and why he had been taken into custody and placed in the blood jail, which was only for the trash of the shinobi world. Fukasaku and Shima, I will tell you everything that happened to me till this point and please don't interrupt me, Naruto said as he approached them cautiously and sat down cross-legged. He explained to them both how he got out, that the wishing box was merely a jail, and that the spirit within it had taught him, but he withheld his name and what he had learnt from Mar. Honored elders, my main reason for coming was to say that I will quit being a ninja of Konoha because they have let me down far too many times, he remarked after giving them both the information they needed. What do you mean with that, my boy? Fukasaku questioned in shock. First of all, no one told me about my family simply saying we don't know what pisses me more than that half-assed lie or that I was dumb enough to believe it, Naruto said, looking gravely at the elder pair. He went on, the second reason is that, aside from you, all of my teachers either didn't teach me anything or did a shoddy job of it. For example, Kakashi was constantly reading his smut, and the most insane thing he did was teach a rank assassination jutsu to 13-year-old Sasuke, who was mentally unstable and almost killed me 3 times with it. The only things Jiraiya taught me were how to use the fox chakra, some chakra control exercises, and summoning you guys. He was primarily preoccupied with monitoring his smut or communicating with his spies. Finally, he said, I always help my so-called friends when they need it, but when I ask for help, they are always preoccupied with something else or leave me alone, like at my so-called trial when no one spoke up for my defense and didn't mention Hinata, who primarily has a hero crush on me because I protected her from bullies when we were young. The only ones I still consider my friends in Konoha are the Konohamaru Corps, the Ikarakus, and maybe Irika while I am not sure about him anymore maybe he saved just that the fox couldn't come out, said Naruto. Fukasaku was silent, thinking that his student had every right to go, but he was unable to do so at this time because the Fourth World War was coming to an end and the reaming Akatsuki was on the loose. What about your love, Sakura? Asked the Toad Elder. Wasteful time, I was just her tool to get her love back and all my so-called love was a childish crush and a belief then when she could love others would respect me, Naruto replied, his eyes glaring with a frozen expression as soon as he finished that sentence. The same goes for my dream of becoming Hokage, which was just to get recognition, a dream from a lonely isolated child. But after hours of talking with his student about it, nothing changed because Naruto was as unyielding as a mountain and wouldn't even move a few centimeters. Eventually, Fukasaku had had enough and pulled his stick to strike Naruto to make his point, but to his surprise, Naruto caught it with one arm and punched him with the other, allowing him to slide across the ground. Naruto expressed his frustration by glaring at his former teacher. It looked like we can't find a common ground anymore, master. Right now there's only one solution I can take, and that is to cancel the contract. So hand me the scroll and don't bother saying something. You got your point across, but I will stand firm by my beliefs, and as it seems you cannot accept my point without getting violent, then I have here nothing left to search for. Shima was saddened by the fact that it had to end this way, but after seeing Naruto's eyes, she realized that he wasn't a young warrior and that whatever had happened to him during his training with this spirit had changed him profoundly. Reluctantly, she called forth the scroll to cancel the contract and motioned for him to approach. She said that in order to nullify the contract, he had to cross out his name with his own blood, which he did. After that, Naruto was reverse summoned from behind. He looked up at the sky, which turned into night once more, and watched the stars, which strengthened his resolve to go there again. However, he had to first reach the land of whirlpools before he could begin running south toward the land of rain. Time traveled to the country of rain a few days later. Because of the force, he was able to avoid any patrols while running, eating what he could find and hunting, but then he felt a pull to a place that the force wanted him to go. Learning to trust the force, he changed course and followed the pull until he came to a hidden cave, which he cautiously entered while examining the area. He glanced about until he came across a large scroll that was familiar, which he carefully opened to avoid setting off any concealed traps. It included a list of names, the majority of which were too weathered to read, but the final one, Hattori Hanzo, was readable. He thought, no, it couldn't be true, yet the Salamander clan's fabled summoning scroll was indeed lying in this cave, awaiting a new summoner. He wanted to write his name right away, but he stopped himself. He first used the chakra to summon himself in reverse, asking permission to be there, and then he vanished with the scroll in a cloud of smoke. The realm of Salamander. Naruto entered the realm and began to explore. He was on an obsidian plateau with a lengthy stairway leading below. He then noticed two large mountains in the distance, one of which had a lava river that flowed into a massive stone structure, and the other, which was merely a water river that split in two, with half of it running into the building and the other half down the mountain into the valley. He noticed additional structures in the valley, one like an arena and the other a Buddhist temple, both encircled by tiny, human-looking homes. He prepared himself for what was about to happen when he heard footsteps coming down the stairs. A large red-scaled salamander, about 16 meters long and as green as jade, was there. After waiting, Naruto paused, turned to face him, and began to say, "I am Utenoichi, king of the Salamander clans. Who are you, human, as well as what do you want?" Naruto said, "I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and for being here I wanted to become the new summoner of your clan. I found the contract hidden in a cave, but I didn't want to sign it without your approval, great king. I know your name, but aren't you allied with the Toads? What happened that you or them cancelled the contract?" Utenoichi asked, gazing at the young guy in front of him. "Would you allow me to explain everything from the beginning?" spoke Naruto. After Naruto finished telling his story from the beginning to the present, he turned to face Utenoichi and said, "Will you give me the honor of becoming your summoner?" Utenoichi was thinking to himself, this young man, no young warrior, would be great to be a summoner. He remembers and of Hanzo, at his age strong in his beliefs and nearly unbreakable will and great respect for allies. Yes, he would make worthy ally of the Salamander clan, but they still needed to test him in combat and skill. After a moment of waiting, the king answered, "I think you would be great a part of your clan. Still, tradition demands that we test you in combat. One of every tribe will face you tomorrow in the arena, and before you ask." Hanzo was an exception because he saved abuse and got a life debt. That was the reason why he hadn't to face the test. But now rest. I will order that you get something to eat and drink. Naruto sat down to meditate and get ready for tomorrow's combat challenge after the Salamander King had left. As daylight quickly arrived, Naruto waited to be called for his battle trial to demonstrate his worth as their summoner. After some time, he sensed a black salamander, about 2 meters long, approaching. He greeted him and motioned for him to join him to the arena. The arena. When Naruto got in the middle of the arena, he saw that it was much the same as the one back home, with the exception that the floor was made of white marble. He then turned to face the crowd, which was full of salamanders with red, white, gray, and black scales. Then the king screamed, "My brothers and sister, this young warrior came to gain your favor as your summoner, and like many before him he must complete the combat trail. His opponent will be the leader of the Iron Clan, nobody else, as Weapon Master Musashi." Then Musashi arrived, a gray-scaled salamander with a large scroll on his back and what appeared to be samurai armor, walking on his hind legs like a person. After glancing at Naruto, he placed the scroll beneath his feet and channeled chakra. Immediately after, the entire arena floor was covered in various weapons, including swords, axes, spears, and more. "Select your weapon," he said to Naruto, "because this is a duel that will only be fought using the art of weapon combat." Naruto began studying the weapons after Musashi stated that, but he was unable to sense any of them beckoning to him. He then groaned and remarked, "The only weapon tape I would be comfortable to use too isn't there." When Musashi questioned, "So what type of do you wield, warrior?" many were taken aback. In response, Naruto said, "I can only demonstrate, not explain." Musashi said, "Then show it." Many people gaped in wonder and surprise as Naruto transformed into Sage mode and produced his force swords with both hands. He reflected that even Musashi was smiling, finally someone who I can use my masterpiece against. As he channeled chakra into it, it began to light green and 7 shining spots appeared. He then let other weapons vanish and called forth his masterpiece, which resembled a jian with an 8-petaled guard and an emerald green blade. "This is my masterpiece, the 7-star sword, and I will defeat you, young warrior," yelled Musashi. Yutanoichi screamed, "Let the battle begin," as Naruto prepared to charge at his opponent as Musashi held his left hand close to his head. Musashi was the first to move and swung his sword down, unleashing a wave of green fire that Naruto avoided as he ran at full speed toward his opponent. Musashi then unleashed several waves, which Naruto all evaded. When Naruto was about to attack, Musashi raised his defenses to block his opponent's first blow. Naruto tried a cross-strike, confident that it would end quickly and that his blades would easily sever the sword. To his surprise, however, the blade survived the blow unscathed, and Musashi was even able to knock him back a few paces with his enhanced strength. Musashi remarked, "Surprised my masterpiece was created by a secret method only known by me to even withstand the Raijin no Ken, that your weapons seem to be inspired off, and I know also about natural energy." The true battle then started, with both of them blocking and countering one another in a lovely death dance. After a few hours, they both had small cuts here and there, but nothing severe or incapacitating. When Naruto became extremely exhausted, his movements became clumsy, and he knew he would lose against Musashi, who was barely breathing and merely perspiring, after days of spamming Rasengan. "Musashi, you won this duel. I am at my limit, and great people of the Salamander clan, I am sorry to have failed your trail. It's time to end the duel," Naruto said after being thrown back a few meters by another full-power battle between the two of them. His blades were fading as he stood up. Musashi spoke with a confident tone, yes, this is the end of your duel and I won, but you didn't fail the trail. The main goal of this trail was see if you have the spirit of a true warrior, but it was also to see if you are humble enough to accept a loss what you did, and now I have only one thing left to say: welcome to the clan. Then Yutanoichi spoke up, congratulations Naruto, now rest. Then tonight we will hold a giant celebration in honor of your new summoner, and tomorrow you will get new weapons and armor that fit you. On the same day, Konohagakure, after setting up her new office in the rebuilt Kage Tower, Tsunade had a bad feeling that she had won the lottery twice, which was a very bad sign. To her chagrin, Fukasaku showed up a moment later, looking angry, and told her to call everyone who had anything to do with Naruto to come to the office because he had something to say about him. The Rookie 12, their living senseis, the Ikarakus, Irika, Anko, Shizun, and the Konohamaru Corps with Ebisu had all arrived in a short period of time. When they were ready, the elder Toad gave them an explanation, and as each minute went by, they became either paler or, in some cases, sadder. When he was finished, everyone looked down. The Ikarakus were pleased that their favorite client had at last looked for happiness for himself, but they were also somewhat concerned that anything might happen to. Hinata broke down in tears because she couldn't handle what had happened or what her beloved had said. Kiba was the first to speak. Okay, so that I get this right, Naruto is now a missing, and from his point of view nearly all of us hypocrites and will either attack or kill us on sight. In order to avoid them, Konohamaru and his buddies are also upset that their employer has turned into a missing nin and terminated his contract with the Toads. Since he doesn't know Naruto well, Ebisu didn't have an opinion. Given that he was considered a hero, Ino found it incomprehensible that he would depart at this time. Choji just lost his appetite. Tenten and Niji were shocked that the world's biggest jerk would act in such a manner or go that far. Despite seeing the reasoning behind his behavior, Shino remained silent. Guy and Lee sobbed that Naruto's youthful fervor had extinguished and turned into a frigid wasteland. Kakashi was most offended by his sensei's son's accusations that he was a hypocrite and a bad instructor, but after recalling all of their time together, he realized that it was true and felt completely ashamed of himself. Until she met her pals, Anko largely admired him for doing something she frequently wished to do herself. Shikamaru spoke next. What are we doing now? No one of us is able to beat him. He will rip us to shreds, and talking is also out of the window. The only ones who he wouldn't kill on sight would be Konohamaru and his friends. That's very troublesome. Tsunade continued, that's why we will send them to talk to Naruto. Maybe he will be reasoned. If not, then we'll take care of that after Tobi and his forces are taken care of. But be very careful when you go after him. From Fukasaku's explanations, this isn't the Naruto we know but someone different, and his new attitude remembers me on someone who I still fear to this day. Shino inquired, and who is that Lady Hokage? Tsunade's response was succinct, Hanzo the Salamander. The other people genuinely hoped that Naruto would never obtain that contract and come for retribution, but everyone who heard that either paled or gave a fuck about it, as if Naruto had nothing against the Ikarakus and they had nothing to fear. After that, Niji took Hinata back to the Hyuga compound, where the Konohamaru would get ready to pursue their leader. Tsunade was crying. First, she lost her little brother again because of her own stupid decision to not tell him about the secret mission and about what was to come should someone hear what happened to Naruto before they could get him back. Many allies and agreements were because of him, and after the war there would be hell to pay for them. Deciding for herself, seeing her master so distraught, Shizun was at a loss for what to do. She even offered her sake, which she declined, claiming she wasn't thirsty, but she stayed with her and let her to weep into her shoulder. Naruto was heading toward the Great Forge, as the clan's residents called it. When he arrived and entered, He was met by statues of white marble warriors from a time long before chakra was widely known. He eventually reached the center of the building, which had an amazing black marble floor, a waterfall on either side that cooled the new inventions, and a lava flow that melted metals. At least one member of the Iron Tribe was working in every corner. He approached Musashi after noticing him working on something and asked, "What are you making, Musashi?" "Just something to keep my mind occupied till you arrive here," said Musashi with a smile. "Come on, we must choose the metal for your new weapon, follow me." Musashi began to walk, and Naruto followed him toward the storage. As he was moving through the storage, Naruto sensed that something was calling to him. He saw a lot of metals that he had never seen before, but one in particular caught his attention. It was violet in color and resembled a crystalline structure made of hexagons bound together. Musashi arrived, wondering where Naruto had gone, and he saw him, grinning, and discovered the metal that was for him. He gives Naruto a quick tap on the shoulder and mentions that they should follow him back to the forge so they can begin preparing his new weapon while they're there. "What's this metal called?" inquired Naruto. Musashi gave a succinct response. "Dawn Stone." "Musashi, when we are back at the forge, can you let me forge the weapon, and before you ask why my instinct tells me to do it so it truly fits me?" Naruto said after they had been walking in quiet for a bit. Musashi gave their new summoner a serious look and wanted to refute the fact that Dawn Stone was uncommon and difficult to forge if you don't know how to allow him to manufacture, since his intuition told him it was foolish. But before he could say anything, he recalled that when he was forging the seven-star sword, he felt a whisper urging him to make the blade the way nature instructed him to do so, using natural energy. Since Naruto was a sage, perhaps nature was trying to tell him how. "Okay, you can try, but only once fail, and I will do it now, come on," he said to Naruto when his mental monologue was over. Following his return to the forge, Naruto set the Dawnstone metal on the anvil and began to call out to the force for guidance. He heard a whisper telling him what to do, and many people began to gawk at him after hearing the sound of lightning and being completely astonished by what they saw. In addition to causing the material to melt under the heat of the lightning, Naruto shot a great deal of lightning jutsu at it, gradually transforming it into a katana hilt with a cross-rounded guard that also changed its color from violet to golden. The oddest thing, though, was that tiny piece of metal slowly floated to it and began to form into what appeared to be a crystal with an orange rim and a black core. When it was finished, it floated to the still shape, and he placed his hilt in the center of it before the metal completely encased it inside. Naruto sensed that the process was complete and that he could stop and claim his new weapon, so he stopped the force lightning and walked slowly to the hilt before grabbing it and channeling chakra into it. Immediately, a black cord blade with an orange outline appeared, and he smiled to himself. "Alive for a long time, but I never thought that I would see that someone will create a Raijin no Ken," Musashi said, looking at the weapon that had been born a second time. He couldn't believe it, but it was there. After his initial statement, Musashi asked, "So what the blade's name?" Naruto answered, "Solar Eclipse." "That what it will be called? It resembled pretty much one, don't you agree?" Musashi nodded and continued, "Come, we still need you to get new armor, and I already have an idea what would fit. I think the best armor for you would be an Orochi samurai armor that were the forgotten predecessor of the shinobi still living the Bushido code, but were also trained in deception and stealth while using poison knives and blades, and such things, but they were still honorable beyond anything." After that, Musashi departed, and Naruto followed him to receive new armor and finish getting ready to go. His inner voice told him that a final encounter with his past as a Konoha shinobi was necessary in order to break free from it and reach the stars of endless possibilities, but he thought to himself as he was walking that he needs to make haste, then the longer he stayed at the same place the harder would be to reach his destination. With new equipment, supplies, and a map in hand, Naruto was prepared to depart from the house of his new comrades and set out to leave his mark on the galaxy's history. With that thinking, he was whisked back to the cave where he discovered the contract. A cave in the rainy land. After examining the map to determine his options for getting to the land surrounded by whirlpools, he emerged in the cave and began to move. He decided to take the most hazardous route through the land of fire, but the force would help him avoid the patrols and conceal his presence with a force cloak, which allows Sith assassins to become invisible. The empty, Darth, Naruto's tutor, watched him march to his goal from the void, also called Hell, which is a location for dead Dark Lords that can be characterized as hundreds of pieces of earth drifting around space without stars. My former apprentice works fast good but needs a way to learn the mystic ways of the Force like Sith magic and alchemy or dark side rituals, but where shall he get that knowledge? Most holocrons from this time were destroyed, Darth reflected as he gazed at his former apprentice. As he was reflecting, Mar felt a presence approaching. It was Darth Jadus, another formidable Dark Lord who was second only to the Emperor of his day. You reared a strong warrior, Mar, but he lacks the mystic ways, and I know what you're thinking, how to provide this knowledge when most wisdom of this kind was destroyed, said Darth Jadus, gesturing to Mar. Mar continued, I know you long enough from our time in the Dark Council. You always had an ace up your sleeve, so tell me what it is, requested Mar. Jadus looked at Mar and responded, it is right that most of your knowledge of the dark side was destroyed when the Empire fell, but the most powerful holocron, the Telos holocron, survived hidden in a forgotten Jedi temple on a distant planet, and I know a way to get it to your apprentice, explained Jadus to Mar. And how shall we do it? Like you said, it's on a distant planet? Mar questioned, squinting beneath his helmet. Questioned Mar. Jadus was smiling behind his mask and answered Mar, I am a master at force teleportation. It can teleport from the temple to your apprentice home planet, but I don't know where it is, but you do, and my reason for helping you is simple. The holocron was once in my possession and I uploaded my wisdom to by helping you I can also create a legacy for myself. Jadus continued, I know we never saw much eye to eye in your time on the Dark Council, but in thing we had the same opinion. The Empire needed to change. I hated nothing more than the anti-alien police of the Empire. It shouldn't matter with race you belong, as long you do job right you get the glory, and you wanted to create an empire based of loyalty and passion, not of hate and greed, so let's us work together for bright empire, Jadus said with enthusiasm. I hate to say it, but you're right, I take deal. So let's get to work, time is of essence, Mars said after giving Jadus a long look. Following that, the two Dark Lords of the Sith started using their combined might to transfer to its newest owner, Darth Novacum, the largest collection of dark side knowledge that had existed since the previous Empire's heyday. Naruto is back. Thanks to force speed and his endurance, Naruto was able to travel through Fire Country at a tremendous pace for hours at a time. During his run, he sensed a presence that he later identified as Sasuke's red-headed partner Karen. Since Naruto knew she was a good physician and knew a lot about the other members of Sasuke's gang, he thought she may be helpful and used the force to trap her and extract information. Karen suddenly felt a powerful energy while running through her sensor ability, but before she could react, someone hit her in the back of her neck, knocking her out. Karen had escaped from the prison cell she was in by using tools she had hidden in a Sasuke puppet and by pretending to be mentally unstable so the guards wouldn't take her seriously. Naruto grinned over the unconscious girl and began using the force to gather information from her. At the very least, what he discovered was helpful because her friends, like Suigetsu, were only with Sasuke for their own objectives, such as finding the 7 swords of the mist to reconstruct the special unit from mist. Yugo, who was the creator of the cursed seal and whose clan bloodline enabled him to turn his body into weapons, was only with Sasuke because he thought he was the only person who could stop him from going on a rampage. Since Sasuke saved her during the Chunin exam, Karen herself only suffered from a severe case of hero obsession. However, her abilities were intriguing. She was a good tactician who could use life force to heal others. Her sensor abilities were amazing. She could even sense him while he was force-cloaked, and her analytical skills were strong. She was too valuable to be sent to Sasuke for a foolish fixation on a man who threw her away, so Naruto made the decision to convert her to his cause. He took hold of her and began to run quickly in search of a hiding spot where he could turn her into his partner. After discovering an old, deserted hideout, Naruto laid her down on the ground, bound her with a rope he discovered there, and started shaking her to get her to wake up. After staring for a while and feeling his chakra, Karen opened her eyes to see someone who appeared to be a samurai. She was terrified of the person who had taken her and hoped he wasn't a slaver or worse, one of the other village's ninja. She recognized Naruto, the Kyuubi container. Why was he dressed like a warrior, and shouldn't he be in blood prison for attempting murder, as she had overheard guards discussing one night? He stared at her and continued speaking. It has been a while since we last met, and before you ask why I looked like this, broke out of prison and became missing, Nin also got new allies who gave me that my new armor. Naruto said, now to the important things I want you to join, and before you scream that you will never betray Sasuke, think good about what was your loyalty and love for him. Karen was stopped cold in her tracks and began thinking, what Naruto said is true. All that she did for Sasuke, all the love and loyalty she gave him, and he nearly killed her just to kill Danzo and left her there at the battlefield. But was Naruto better? I mean, he also abandoned his village now too. Karen pondered for a long before asking why Naruto had left the village. Naruto answered her, loyalty. I was always loyal to the village, and all I got was being their punching bag. I even defeated pain, created lots of alliances for it, but what did I get? Because someone framed me for an assassination attempted at the Raikage and no one questioned, no one stood up for me, and I am sick of it. I want respect. That's why I left it, that ungrateful place. When Karen heard why Naruto had left his village, she was shocked and thought that he was right to go in search of happiness. She could feel that his chakra had changed from the last time. It was still largely warm and comforting like the sun, but now something else was there, and it wasn't the fox losing himself in his thoughts once more. When Naruto sensed that Karen was deep in thought once again and realized it was time to kill, he reached up and touched her cheek, forcing her to look at him directly and utilizing the force to make her commit to him. Naruto started talking, Karen, now that you know what happened to me and see how similar our situations are, why not come with me? I respect you and your skills and I will never betray you, replied Naruto. As he gently stroked her cheeks, concentrating on warming and comforting his chakra while continuing to use subtle coercion to persuade her to accept his proposal and become faithful to him. Karen felt odd in Naruto's company, but she also felt nice and warm. His chakra was enticing, and his gentle touch made her want to melt right there. Everything he said made sense to her, and she wanted to go with him because she knew he would take care of her, possibly even love her. Karen stated, Naruto, I will join you. Even in this short amount of time I felt safer and happier than in my entire time with Sasuke. I will follow you to the end of the world. With a smile on his face, Naruto withdrew his hand and released Karen. They then looked around the hiding place for whatever they might use and headed straight for the next harbor town. As a sort of defense mechanism, Naruto avoided the innumerable whirlpools that seemed to constantly appear in his path while he was carrying Karen and running across the sea to reach the land of whirlpools to retrieve the ship. However, after running and dodging for however long they arrived at the shore, Karen got off Naruto's back. The whirlpool land. Naruto began to march toward the center of the island, but he was unsure of what he was feeling. After some time, they arrived at the ruins of a town, and both of them wondered why a town was there. They began searching, but abruptly, Naruto tensed, feeling something calling to him once more, knowing that he had to follow it. "Karen, we should separate and look for anything helpful. Maybe we can uncover what happened here," he said, turning to face her. Karen gave Naruto a quick glance and nodded before they parted ways. Alongside Naruto, when Naruto arrived at a side room of the ruins, he found a faint red glow and ran over to grab it in his hand. It appeared to be a red crystal structure with an odd design, and after taking it, something happened. Naruto followed the call to the remains of what appeared to be a clan compound, but for what clan? Then he felt it again, the dark side pulsing, screaming at him to come over. A holographic image appeared and spoke, "All that we know, we shall share freely with you. All we ask in return is that you keep an open mind, and use this knowledge for the benefit of only one being you. It is not out of greed that we ask this of you, but out of respect, of all those who might have stumbled upon this device. No one are more deserving of our knowledge than you." This was the best find he could wish for, Naruto thought as he stared at the holocron, stunned. If the Guardian's claim that more than the Dark Lord infused his wisdom in this holocron was accurate, then he could now study the mystic arts of the Force, such as Sith alchemy and Sith magic. However, there was still the matter of why this was here, as if it had been waiting for him. At that time, a powerful evil artifact would have summoned someone deserving of this planet, and if it had been here for more than a few days, he would have felt his connections to the dark side. Perhaps it was put here for him, but how could his master still wish to lead him on his quest for victory even in death? The Guardian gazed at Naruto, who was still deep in meditation, and then coughed to catch his attention before asking, "What do you want to learn?" Breaking out of his trance, Naruto began to consider what he wanted to learn and what would be the most useful skill he could currently possess. He had enough fighting skills, but his biggest challenge would be avoiding being followed if he needed supplies or resources, and the only thing that would give him that ability was teleportation. He knew it sounded ridiculous, but his master once said that the Force has no limits for them, so they conquered it. "Is there a technique who allows teleportation?" he asked, looking at the Guardian, who appeared bored. The Guardian said, "Yes, there is, and now listen, this is one of hardest to master. To teleport means to move through time and space." While Karen was in another area of the destroyed hamlet, the Guardian continued to give instructions, and Naruto listened intently. Alongside Karen, as Karen used her mind-eye technique to search for any kind of inhabitants other than animals, she felt a small chakra signature as she marched through the village's ruins. She then came to the ruins of a building and began looking for what was causing the chakra signature. After carefully navigating the building's ruins, she discovered a large room. While in the room, she sensed a faint chakra signal coming from a corner. She moved to the corner, knelt down, and touched the ground. As soon as her hand touched the seal array, the ground disappeared and revealed a hidden route. After descending, Karen found an old torch, lit it, and began exploring what was below. It appeared to be a library with numerous scrolls, so she took one out to see what was written in sealing instructions, such as how to create a storage seal and other simple things. She chose to look through a few more before returning to Naruto to share her discovery. Alongside Naruto, Naruto was still in the rubble of the facility, attempting to learn how to force port with only moderate success. He could go a short distance in a second, giving the impression to an outsider that he had changed into green smoke and materialized somewhere else. After several more attempts, he made the decision to stop, took the holocron, placed it in the bag he had discovered in the old hideout, and started looking for the reason he had come here. He called the force to direct him to the ship that should be here somewhere, and after marching for a while in the direction the force had directed him, he reached a cliff. He used force to search for something that didn't belong here, and he felt it deep in the ocean, at the bottom, waiting to be taken to the surface. He grasped it and began pulling it. It was difficult to lift the ship because it was so large that the ground began to tremble. When it reached the surface, it was evident that it was a Terminus-class destroyer. Naruto had assumed it was just a small freighter with a hyperdrive, but this was both better and worse because it required a large crew to operate properly, but it should be possible to travel with just him and Karen. He could feel the force wearing him down as he levitated it to the ground, but he felt like everything was simply a medium for it, so he had a limit till he collapsed, but he wouldn't stop, wouldn't fail. Then he was Darth Nova, the future emperor of the galaxy. With a final roar, he dropped to his knees and put his ship on the ground. Karen ran to him and looked at him anxiously before he passed out. Karen looked at the now-dead Naruto and wondered what had happened. When the earth began to tremble, she hurried out of the hidden archive to find the source, and what she saw startled her, a huge metal object floating toward the island. What was even more terrifying was that it was floating in the direction of Naruto, so she ran to the location where she felt him to help if it was hostile. Karen wanted to call Naruto and warn him about what she saw when she arrived at the location, but before she could say anything, a floating object entered her field of vision, and she heard him scream something before finding the object on the ground. When he collapsed, she ran over to him. He asked herself, "Is this the thing that was floating just a minute ago?" As she rushed over to him after he fainted, administered first aid, checked for injuries, and exhaled in relief that he was simply tired and had lost his composure from whatever he was doing. She then began dragging him back to the ruins to set up a tent till he woke up and to tell him what she had found, possibly knowing what it was that was lying asleep next to her. Mindscape of Naruto is shown staring at the fox in his mind. His mindscape had changed significantly. A sewer had taken the place of what appeared to be a Sith Empire military base, and there were numerous gray metal corridors connecting various areas of his mind. The fox was now seated in a massive holding cell that was enclosed by a force field to prevent it from escaping. "Well done, you avoided overtaxing yourself once more. I understand that you want to leave this world as quickly as possible, but killing yourself won't help your cause. That being said, I have a deal for you. I'm tired of my brother and I being used as weapons of mass destruction by these callous leaders, so I devised a plan to put an end to it all." The fox went on, "So here's the deal, I'll give you my power to end this war, and once it's over, you'll take my siblings and I to the summoning realm and let us go so we can either create our own realm or join the one that most closely resembles yours. It's a win-win situation, and you can get rid of your enemies more easily until the war is over and we can be free and away from humans for a long time. Still continuing, and we'll use my chakra to get rid of your exhaustion so you can continue to work. Do we have a deal?" As he gazed at the fox, Naruto considered this deal. Yes, it was fantastic, but it was also extremely risky, not because the fox would try to defraud him, but rather because, for the person associated with the dark side, rage was a trap. The more rage you have, the more power you gain, but if you get caught up in it, you're effectively dead, so you have to use this power carefully. He wasn't particularly concerned about the other part of the deal because most Bijus didn't care for humans and would prefer to be left alone or be with animals that looked like them. Even if a human could obtain the contract, they could just refuse to be called, but he is concerned that his newfound allies might clash with one of the species the nine resemble and end up dead. He had to make sure they couldn't attack the salamander since he couldn't let it happen. Naruto then said, "Your offer is good, but there is one requirement that I have all 9 of you swear on your father's name that you will not assault my allies in the summoning realm without cause or in self-defense if they attack you first. This requirement is non-negotiable. Deal with that. I, Kurama the Nine-Tailed Fox, swear that I will never attack the Salamander clan, only in self-defense will I strike at them," Ward said after the Kyuubi had been staring at him for some time. The mindscape vanished and Naruto began to awaken as Kurama's chakra erupted to heal him and relieve his fatigue when the final phrase was said. Set up camp in the ruins. When Naruto awoke and smelled cooking, he turned to see that he was back amid the ruins of one of the buildings, which was largely intact. There, he noticed Karen seated next to an open campfire, preparing something using the materials he had taken from the salamanders. He got up, walked, and greeted her. She turned to face him after sensing that he was waking up, and Karen thought that now was the best moment to ask him the question that she didn't need to know the answer to. Naruto. Karen spoke up, "Please speak the truth. To what is that metal or this strange crystal object I found in bag while searching for supplies? It felt dark and powerful. Also, what is your true plan?" After staring at her, Naruto made the decision to speak with her since he thought she was ready to hear the truth and that he could simply get rid of her if she betrayed him, or at the very least, brainwash her. With that in mind, he started to tell her the truth about the prison, the ship, and the holocron. It made some sense that the force sounded like the nature chakra, but Karen needed to see space travel for herself before she could lose herself in her thoughts. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, a mystic energy field that surrounds us all, but she had to tell him about the archive she had discovered first. They decided that Karen should gather all of the scrolls in the archive and then meet up with Naruto at the wreck while he was inspecting the ship to see what was damaged. Karen also told Naruto about the archive she had found and the scrolls inside about sealing and possibly other things. She noticed that he was smiling at what he had heard, and it appeared that the stew she had been preparing was finished with that in mind. Destroyer of Terminus. After a while of searching, Naruto found an entrance on the upper side of the ship, which he jumped and used to summon a few clones to head to the engines, the arsenal, and the generator room to look at what was intact while the main Naruto marched to the bridge. Naruto arrived at the wreckage and locked for a leisurely walk around, happy that the ship didn't appear to be in the best shape, with many holes in the hull from what he could see. Clone 1 arrived at the arsenal, which was fortunate because the one dark side power was a kind of night vision. He opened it cautiously and began exploring. It was largely dry, with few areas covered in seaweed and corals. This was a good sign because he discovered an old droid. After examining it, he realized it was a droid, and after some consideration, he realized that it belonged to the 55 Hong Kong dollar series, a perfect killer droid that was also very capable of repairing and maintaining ships because they used it frequently. In light of this, Clone 1 recharged it with a tiny lightning bolt. 55 Hong Kong dollars roared to life, looked around, and noticed that a meat bag had activated him. He greeted him by saying, "Greetings, meat bag. I'm 55 Hong Kong dollars. I'd like to know what happened before I was deactivated." The Naruto clone described how the spacecraft had crashed on the planet where he had received Darth Mar's training and was attempting to fix and restart the Empire. 55 Hong Kong dollars said, "Statement okay, that means you're my new master. Looks like I get to kill some meat bags again like in my glorious days. Master, I think it would be best if we joined the clone in generator room to restart the ship." Naruto gave him a nod, and 55 Hong Kong dollars followed him after grabbing an old gun that was still functional. Room for generators. When he heard someone approaching, Clone 2 was checking the generator to see if there was any damage. He turned around to see Clone 1 with a droid in tow. The droid stopped moving and began scanning. HK spoke out, "Analysis, the generator is mostly intact and ready to. I will activate it. Stand back, masters, and watch out for loose cables or it fry you both." After that, HK turned on the generator, which roared to life with sparks and charges flying everywhere. It then stopped and became silent, and the ship's light began to continue. They silently decided to head toward the bridge to use an internal sensor to get a status report on the ship, with one clone receiving the last of them. Bridge. When Naruto arrived at the bridge, the automatic door opened and he entered the ship's main command center, which appeared to have been boarded and completely destroyed from the inside due to the numerous holes and burn marks from heavy weapon fire on the consoles and a completely destroyed front window. As he continued to examine the damage, 55 Hong Kong dollars and Clone 1 entered and greeted him. HK then proceeded to the main console to obtain the internal sensor's damage status, and after some time, he presented his findings to Naruto. 55 Hong Kong dollars spoke, "Analysis, master, the ship has multi-hull breaches that need to fix up. Many parts are overgrown with seaweeds and other such things, but good news, the engine is in good enough shape for close hyperspace travel and the isotope 5 generator is undamaged and does have enough energy left to access most resources inclusive workbenches to make the necessary electronic for the ship, and another good news is we don't need a big crew for this ship. I am able to fly it myself by linking myself to the mainframe." Naruto was happy to hear that the old Imperial Navy could build ships that lasted this long without suffering too much damage. This was amazing, so he made a few clones and gave them instructions to fix the ship under HK command while he got the necessary supplies. Then, he went outside and called forth a salamander. When a small black salamander showed up, Naruto asked to deliver this message to Musashi. When the salamander inquired what it was, Naruto replied that it was a list of supplies to fix the object behind him. After the salamander departed, Naruto sat down to meditate in order to regain his strength. He also used the teleport to call the Telos holocron to him because it was simpler to move objects than humans, and he used it once again to discover more about the dark side. When Karen arrived later with all of the scrolls sealed and a few smaller ones, she explained that she had learned how to make storage seals first so that she could transport everything easily. She asked Naruto how it went and if the ship could be repaired, and he simply nodded as he listened to the holocron's instructions on a device known as a force net. Karen also began pulling out scrolls to study, and the one that most intrigued her was how to make water with therapeutic qualities. They studied the healing hand method and other things in private, getting ready for future trials. Only the hull needs to be fixed for another week in order for the ship to be safe for space travel, including the armament systems. A week has gone by since the ship's repairs started, and most of the vital systems, such as life support, engines, and navigation systems, have been fixed. Naruto sat in his freshly cleaned private room of the ship, studying the Salamander clan's technique scrolls. He wanted to use the knowledge of his new allies to strengthen his arsenal, and he was shocked to learn that the Salamanders had more to offer than just the Iron Clan's master forgers. Additionally, proficient poisoners using black salamanders had produced numerous gases to either kill and immobilize the enemy or weaken them and give them hallucinations similar to genjutsu. The White Clan was their counterpart, and their gases could improve body functions through aromatherapy, such as increased stamina regeneration or self-healing. While the Iron Clan possessed hundreds of weapon-style scrolls for almost every weapon type in existence, the White Clan also produced perfumes for both men and women when they were bored. He is currently studying the ancient scroll on the Orochi style. Naruto read up on sword styles because, after studying the holocron for a while longer, he did speak with the Lord of Hate, Tulak Horde, Master of the Blade, Slaughterer of Armies, who used only his blade and remained undefeated until his death. The Orochi style is one that uses strong counterattacks and quick movement to defeat numerous enemies. Tulak told him that his unbeaten record in battle was due to his mastery of Juyo, the seventh form. Horde also explained that the reason it was left unfinished was deliberate, as mastering the blade requires developing one's own style, which is why Juyo was never finished. Each person must develop their own version of Juyo in order to become a true master. He was studying when a tremendous thunderclap signaled the arrival of a storm. He sensed a change, but he was unable to determine whether it was good or bad, so he kept learning the katas. Alongside Karen was working on making a special weapon for herself, a so-called chakra bow, and discovered the schematics for it in the hidden archive. She was standing in the workshop that HK had set up to make parts for the repair. It could shoot highly concentrated chakra-based arrows, and when a particular type of chakra, such as elemental chakra, was utilized to make the arrow, the effect changed from only penetrating to other objects. Its overall design was incredibly intricate, requiring the creation of a unique alloy to resist the energy that was channeled for it, as well as a sophisticated sealing array that collected the bearer's free-flowing chakra for storage and future usage to produce several shoots. The shaping process started after the necessary alloy was melted and forged in an electric furnace. It was difficult and exhausting. The shape had to be gradually hammered into place while channeling chakra into it. In order for the sealing array to function, it had to be first engraved, then filled out with a proprietary ink formula before being heated to burn into the bow. While forging, she thought about what she had learned from Naruto and what was out there, and she wanted to see it and watch his ascension. It was exhausting, but it was worth it because she could be a much bigger assistance to their cause with this weapon. After finishing the task, she was pleased with herself because she had made something so strong that she would test it outside as soon as the storm passed. For the time being, Karen went to her room to relax. Naruto the following day outside, Naruto focused on the katas of the Orochi style, testing what would work for his own style. It was very complicated, with a focus on brutal counterattacks and constant body shifting to either let the enemy's weapon slip past or add body weight to withstand any attack. He then pushed the opponent back and, when he staggered, countered with swift and vicious strikes to quickly end him. Naruto called for Musashi for guidance because the elderly warrior blacksmith is knowledgeable about combat and sparring with him will undoubtedly make it more successful. When Musashi showed up, Naruto explained his goals and demonstrated the moves for Juyo and Orochi style. Musashi was amazed at how quickly he picked up the art, but developing a style required commitment, accuracy, and the ability to envision the shape and form. In order to bring his new art to life, Musashi summoned 2 training sabers and prepared to battle his apprentice. He will later call upon a few other skilled weapon fighters from his clan to hone the new style against multiple enemies at once using various tactics. As is the case with many things in life where an elder's advice can be worth more than gold. Karen, to make sure she completed the manufacturing process correctly, Karen gently raised the weapon and began forcing chakra into it. The seal array began to glow red, and a red chakra bowstring formed. Karen stood opposite her makeshift targets, which were built from some rubble she had gathered. Karen gently grasped the string and began drawing it back, creating a red arrow as she did so. Once the bow was ready, she concentrated on the target like a hawk preparing to attack its prey. With a hissing sound, she released the arrow, which raced to its target and passed through it. Karen gazed in awe of the weapon her family had made. It's no wonder they were feared worldwide. If they could produce something like this, what more was hidden? As her interest reached new heights, Karen ran back to examine even more scrolls. She was always curious about her mother's origins and their past. Her mother passed away when she was a little girl, and Karen was compelled to take on the role of caring for injured Kusa shinobi until her death. The bite marks that didn't heal were examples of this, and even after Orochimaru found her, she continued to be treated like a tool. Even when she was with Taka, she never felt comfortable around Suigetsu, a sword-obsessed madman, Yugo, an unstable psychopath due to his bloodline, and Sasuke, a self-centered, revenge-obsessed monster who, like Orochimaru, used them as tools and threw them away when they were no longer needed. However, the real Naruto was different. Yes, he had grown colder and more cunning, but his passion and loyalty remained. He simply wasn't as forgiving as he once was because he now lived by the principle that loyalty is a two-way street. If you betray him, he will destroy you with ease. In light of that, Karen began to move toward the location where she sensed Naruto and a few Salamander clan members. As she was walking, she sensed a chakra signature in the west, which she didn't recognize because it felt weak and dying, so she went to investigate. After running for a while, she reached the coastline and discovered a stranded ship with the majority of the crew dead. She looked for the weak chakra pulse and discovered a young woman with black hair wearing a flower-shaped forehead protector. She was breathing heavily, but other than that, she didn't appear to have any serious injuries, just exhaustion. After considering whether to kill her in order to conceal their hiding place, but also considering the possibility that she might have valuable information from outside sources, Karen chose to take her to Naruto. To show Naruto their new visitor and help him decide what to do with her, Karen picked her up and took her back to the ship. Karen arrived at the ship and saw Naruto training with Musashi to hone his fighting skills. She assumed that when they sensed her coming, they both stopped to stare at her and her companion, so Naruto approached them. "Who is Karen?" inquired Naruto. Karen said, "I don't know, I found her when I felt a weak chakra signature and decided to investigate. I thought she could be useful for informations, that's why I brought her here to question her." "Good work, Karen. Tie her up and call me when she wakes up so I can ask her directly," Naruto said, grinning as he nodded to her. After saying that, Naruto went back to training with Musashi, and Karen departed to fulfill Naruto's instructions.